in your name and the club that you belong to. Thank you. So, any announcements? Announcements going once, going twice, gone. I will also request that you please mute your mic if you are not speaking. So I think we can just hand over the meeting to Muto. Muto, kindly give us an introduction for speaker for the day.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Madam President. I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker today. So allow me to read his bio. Holiday, aka David Muthengi, holds a BSc degree in Applied Computer Science and MBA in Strategic Management, and is currently pursuing a PhD in Business Administration at the University of Nairobi, specializing in entrepreneurship and small business development. David has worked as an investment analyst at UAP Investment and Alpha Review Advisory. Other than being a financial consultant, David is a 13-time award nominee and a 4-time award-winning music artist. He's also the co-founder and executive director of the Muthengi Foundation, an organization that raises support for education-related needs in society. Over the last 5 years, the organization has raised over 7 million shillings to support education in Kenya through solar lamps, uniforms, desks, computers, and school fees. As a result of his humanitarian work, David won the United Nations Volunteer of the Year award. So members and guests and visiting Rotarians, please welcome Holiday.
I can't hear the
All
Where are the clubs?
You'll just have to see.
I'm kidding. You can get me loud and clear?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so thank you for that very good introduction, Victor. Joki and everyone else, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be the guest speaker today. As we all know, these are some new circumstances that we're doing this meeting. So some of us might not be used to giving talks on Zoom or the internet, but we have to adjust because of what has happened in the country and in the world. So thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm used to giving interactive talks where I'm able to ask questions and then build from that. But today will be different. So I request Victor if I can be able to talk very briefly, and then after that we can have questions, and therefore we can have a more interactive session. So today I'm here to talk about what education has done for me and what we're doing for education in Kenya. And this is something that you can borrow from. As a Rotarian, I'm sure you have a heart for the community. You have a heart for humanity. And I'm sure there's several people in this audience right now who have either started their own initiatives or are part of initiatives and want to make it. So what I want to do today is, by the end of this talk, I want you to be a more effective individual in serving the community. My story into what we're doing at our Foundation. So I'm going to be mentioning a word. I'm going to mention 7 words, and under each word, I'm going to say something. The first word is legacy. The second word is decide. The third word is signing. The fourth one is choosing, making it. Fifth is starting. And seventh is education. Legacy.
Sorry, Dave, just give me a minute. I think your microphone is not very clear.
Okay,
Yes,
let me
sir.
use the computer.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Much better.
Much better. All right.
Yes.
Great. So back to what I was saying. The first word that I'm going to introduce is legacy. In 2019, which is last year, I was watching the CNN Heroes Awards, and a gentleman by the name Mark Mayers was amongst the top 10 nominees in his initiative. And his initiative is for saving donkeys in the world. So I asked myself, a gentleman is being recognized on one of the biggest platforms, CNN, because of saving donkeys. I mean, that challenged me. It showed me that you can do anything in the world and be recognized for it and leave a legacy. So my question to you is, what's your legacy? When you're gone, God forbid, what are we going to remember you for? What is the world going to remember you for? And that's a question I asked myself a few years ago before I started doing the work I'm doing at the Muthengi Foundation. I asked myself, what's my legacy? What do I want to be remembered for? You know, people would probably remember me for the music that I released, for the hosting I did on TV, you know, these flashy things, but people will remember me probably for the book I donated, for the computer I donated, for the uniform I donated, for life I changed through education. The second word is decide. We need to make decisions, hard decisions. We can't be remembered for everything. You can be remembered for one thing. A mentor of mine, who's probably in this meeting right now, I think he's doing, told me back in 2014 when I was starting this, 2013, 2012, 2013. He told me, "Dave, you can't be known for everything. So you have to choose one thing. You have to decide what you want to do. You have to narrow your scope." And I've now forgotten those three words. Narrow your scope. Yeah. What do you want to be remembered for? That one thing. And I said, you know what? I love education for reasons that I'm going to give you during this talk. And I decided that instead of my organization focusing on everything, let's focus on education and be remembered for that. Number three, the third word is shine. Now, this is very interesting and it might ruffle your feathers a bit. In whatever you're doing in life, you have to shine. You have to stand out. You have to be known as someone who provides that good or service. So the question under shining is, are you at the table? You may ask yourself what table this is. You see, there are imaginary tables in any industry. When I mention something, this is a point where I usually interact, but then I'll just continue talking instead of interacting. I'll mention an industry and then we can think through, we can brainstorm, just think in your mind, who's at the table. By who's at the table, I mean, who's known in that industry. Now, why a table? A table usually has 4 to 8 people. So let's take an average of 6 people on a table. That's a dinner table. Or to the people who eat from tables. Yeah, that's a lot in the West. That's Africans. We just sit as we watch TV or you eat in your bed. So in the West, they eat at the table around 6 o'clock. That's when dinner is served. So a table has 6 people. So I'm going to mention an industry, then probably think through who's at the table, who's known in that industry. Number one, we can talk about sports in Kenya, football to be specific. Who's at the table? Who comes to your mind? Number one, you mentioned the Olieches, the Marigas, the Olungas, and all those people. By the time you get to number 6, I'm sure if our mics were on and we're shouting names, we'll probably shout the same names. Reason being, we all agree that these are the individuals who are shining in that given industry. When Betting Company or any other company is looking for someone to advertise a brand ambassador, who do they look at? Where do they look? They look at the table. They probably won't call the 15th football player in Kenya, but they'll call the top 6, and that is the football table in Kenya. Let's talk about media. When I mention media, presenters, anchors, if our mics were on again, I'll be like, mention the top 6. And I'm sure you'd hear the Jeff Koinanges, the Julie Gishurus, and all these people. By the time you get to number 6, we're in agreement that these are the people who are at the table, the media table in Kenya. We can be a bit controversial. Let's mention 6 socialites in Kenya. This at the table in Kenya right now. I'm sure we won't get to number
Vera
3.
Sidika.
Exactly, Vera. But if you feel like interjecting, you can actually come on. Yeah. So I'm sure if we mention 6, we're going to mention Vera. She comes number 1 everywhere I ask this question. Number 2,
Uda Monroe.
Monroe. You see. So we're going to go like that. Right now, there are not too many socialites, so probably they won't fill the table. But I'm sure we can do these ones. Mm-hmm. So let's go to another one. And this one actually,
Okay.
Akode. You know what? That's very good. So let's do this. Let's mention 6 musicians in Kenya. Secular. Who's at the table of them?
Major.
Nameless.
Major.
Nameless.
Femi One.
Nameless.
Calligraph.
Sauti Sol.
Kaka. I want everyone to keep quiet because the table is full.
Nameless.
Imejaa.
Nameless.
No, table imejaa. Those are already 6.
Nameless.
Okay.
They already given enough.
Yes. So what am I trying to say over here? If you're in a boardroom meeting and you're trying to give a deal for, advertising again, a brand ambassador for whatever, you won't look at the 7th person we've mentioned. You look at the top 6 that we've mentioned or we agree. Why? Because these individuals are shining. They're at the table. We can go on and on and on and talk about other industries, but I think you get the point. So whatever you're doing in life right now, if it's a business you're starting, if it's a brand that you have, if it's a charity organization or initiative, are you at the table? I mean, I was looking at your page on Twitter, and I saw a post, a tweet that was tweeted. One of the Rotaries in Kenya got nominated for the initiative. They have Elimu Magerezani or something like that. Yeah. Why did they get nominated? Why didn't your initiative get nominated? Why didn't other initiatives get nominated? Because the initiative secured a position at the table. So whatever you're doing, think of it, as I said, whether it's a business, whether it's an initiative, whether it's a brand you're starting, are you at the table of that given industry? Are you shining? If you're shining, that's when you're going to be making something meaningful. So always make sure you're at the top. Number 4, choosing, making choices. You see, we're talking about addressing social challenges through education today. There are so many social challenges in the world. You see, Mark Mayers chose to save donkeys, just the way the guys who are doing Elimu Magerezani chose to support education in prisons, just the way the Muthengi Foundation chose to support education the ways we do in Kenya. And that is when we chose education. I registered the Muthengi Foundation in 2014. That time I had a very big seat at UAP Investments in Upper Hill. Nilikuwa navaa suti. You should have seen me in my suit over there. I'm going for coffee at around 10:30 a.m. Feeling that I'm a very important Kenyan, making my way up to become a portfolio manager in investments and one day probably lead an equity fund. I had that going on, but I asked myself the questions that I'm asking you guys. What's my legacy? What do I want to be remembered for? Yeah. And that's the time I was making this choice that I want to support education in Kenya. So my sister Joy Muthengi and I, who is also in the media, we registered the Muthengi Foundation in 2014, started the main work in 2015 with the aim of providing education, providing support to education in Kenya. I mean, there's the main elephant in the room, that is tuition, that the government is right now paying for. But look at all the other things that education needs. Right now, you need school uniform so that you can have dignity to be able to go to school. We need computers. Some schools don't even have desks. We're at Kangemi, Kihumbuini Primary School in Kangemi the other day, last month actually, and kids don't even have desks. Teachers don't even have desks to sit on. So they're sitting on the first desk in class. And, I don't need to talk about the education status in Kenya. You all know how our schools are. So our education is not just tuition. So all these other things that support education. It's my work and your work as people who care about community and about humanity, to be able to support the government, whether it's private sector or it's nonprofits like us. So we chose education. And the initiatives that we have are the Ficha Uchi campaign, which was started by our friend Billy Anajiwa. We do school uniforms in schools. We've been able to raise 5,000 uniforms for 50 schools. That's at a cost of around 1,000 shillings per school, per uniform. And that's our biggest initiative. There's the Be the Light solar lamp initiative that we raise support for solar lamps so that we can provide them in rural Kenya, so that kids can study after hours, so that kids can be able to use the time between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. To make it productive, to be able to study, so that they don't have to wake up early in the morning and trek all the way to school and use the fast rays of the sun just to finish their homework. So it's a very simple initiative, but huge impact. We have the Comp Moja initiative where we raise support for computers. We've been able to raise 14 and start a computer hub somewhere in Machakos. And we have other initiatives that we started, like the Euros mission, which raises support for stationery. This targets, remote areas in Kenya, not even rural, but remote areas, basically providing the essentials. These are writing materials and materials to write with. So pens, pencils, exercise books, and then blackboards for the teachers, among others. Now we're at one of the most important words I want to mention today, which is start. I had started earlier on, which was 2012, 2013. And what I've written here and I wanted to read for you is start even if you're not ready. Whatever you're going to do, start even if you're not ready. In the business world, they say that when you're writing a business proposal, when you're writing what's it called? Your business document, basically for your organization, your business model. Start and then continue editing it as you continue changing things. It's okay to change things. So start even if you're not ready. Number two, start with what you have. You don't have to be a millionaire or billionaire to effect change in society. You just start with what you have. Three, start with where you are, right here where you are. You can't say that I want to become an MCA or an MP so that I can start working. No, start right now. You already have a shell. You have your Rotary Club right now. You have supporters, friends who can support any initiative that you want to start. So start where you are. On that start point, my last point there is the best way to start is to start. I get a lot of young people asking me, how can I do this? I have for people in my community and provide sanitary towels and to provide this and that. And I tell them, have you started? They ask me, I don't know how to start. Well, just start. Exactly. Now, before we registered in 2014 and started our main work in 2015, I had already started. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. As you can see, my mentor came and told me to narrow down my scope. I was doing this, that, and everything in any and every school that comes my way. But then I narrowed my scope down and at least got to learn and got to know that actually education is my best shot. So the best way to start is to start, and then you'll figure things out. You know what they say about, the being able to see, you don't have to see the full staircase. You just need to see that first stair and step on it, and then the rest is history. Last but not least now is going to education and how what we're doing to address the social challenge called education in Kenya. Education saved the Muthengi family. That is my family. My dad studied. He was an orphan. Got a loan from the AIC church back in Kitui and studied. He was one of those first doctors, doctor, and he studied theology in the US. You guys know that the workplace can be a bit tricky. So he was a principal of a college in Machakos. It's called Scott University right now. He rose the ranks and became the principal, but then due to personal issues and workplace politics, some people schemed against him and he lost his job. This was back when I was in high school. And I saw my dad literally getting calls and texts and being told, you know, a person with your credentials in academia cannot stay in the village, come work for us. And I saw job offers being offered. That time we lived in Machakos. And as a young boy, I said, wow, this thing called education actually is important. My dad has struggled to get his degrees, struggled to get his master's in the States, you know, trying to raise a family of 5 kids and, you know, in poverty. And I saw education save my dad. And my dad went to become a fully fledged professor. And right now he's serving in several institutions in Kenya. So I saw education save my dad. And I was like, you know what? When I get to that place in society where I can effect change, I'm going to use education to be able to get someone a certificate, even if not a degree, so that that person can be able to save their family and as a result, their community. That's how I fell in love with education. Of course, because my dad loves education, we were able to study. My firstborn, our firstborn, sister Eunice, is in public health. She has a PhD in public health and she's working at DFID. And my brother Momo has a Harvard Business MBA and he's a director of Kuramo Capital right now, has worked at Transcentury Investment as head of investor relations. My sister, Grace, has an MBA specializing in auditing and is working for a solar company. I've forgotten its name. And then there's myself, doing a PhD to inspire young people out here. Worked in, did computer science, switched careers to investments, did an MBA, and right now I'm doing my PhD. My research, my PhD is in entrepreneurship and small business development. And my research right now is in scalability of young firms. I can see some friends joining in right now. And then lastly, there's my sister Joy, who has a degree in business and communications. So education is something that is close to my heart. And if I can be able to support any young Kenyan out here to be able to access education and to be able to hold a credential that can help them feed their families, to me, I'll have left my legacy and I'll be doing something very meaningful and I'll be happy. We want to spread hope through education in Kenya, and you've heard our journey. Where we're going is very far. What we've done.
Sorry, David. Please, everyone, mute your mic. Thank you. What has happened here?
We're good, eh?
Yes, we are.
Great. Yeah, so as I finish, so that I can open it up for any questions and we can go from there. I hope that I've been able to challenge you. The social challenges we're facing are so many. There's so much work to be done. Right now, whether you choose education or you choose sports or you choose the arts, you choose anything that you can help support our government. There's so much to be done. I think there are 2 different kinds of human beings right now. There's a human being who will sit there and say this is the work of the government. And then there's the human beings like you and I who will, I'm a leader in my own right. I'm born in a context, I'm born in a community, and I'm not going to leave the world, the earth, how I left it. So whatever is close to your heart, that's what you should start something in. That's what you should support. Even if you like cooking, there's no cause that is too small. As we've seen, Mark Mayers got nominated in 2019, top 10 CNN heroes because of saving donkeys. I mean, donkeys. So what are you doing for society right now? What do you want to be remembered for? What's your legacy? Choose that thing, start now, start where you are, start with what you have, and just start. So as you continue raising funds for education in Kenya, I'd like us to support each other so that we can be able to do the little we can. And another thing, as we do these things, some people usually think that we're campaigning, that very soon you're going to hear Holy Dave for MCA in Machakos. No, we're doing these things because we care about community, we care about society, and want to leave legacies. So that is the work that we're doing to address the social challenge of education in Kenya. And I hope that I've been able to challenge you to be able to pick up something or whatever you're doing right now, to be able to do it with full confidence, knowing that it's not easy, it won't be easy, but the journey and the results will be worth it. So thank you very much for listening. I know it's a challenge to be able to to talk to people who some you can't even see, and for some people to be able to just sit in front of a computer and look at you. Yeah, but I've tried my best, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. I'm going to throw it back to you, Njoki, or Victor,
Okay.
who was in charge, and then we can get questions. I think we can address them from there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you for inspiring us. Uh, I'm sure all my members are and everyone on this forum is very inspired. Half of what you say is mostly what we do with our education funds that we have. I can see there is a question that has already been thrown on the chat. Maybe I can just read it out from you. It's from Edna. There are so many youths with good education out here and no jobs. How do you encourage one to keep learning, provided there's an opportunity for learning, but there's no job yet? They have no job yet. How do you encourage them to continue going to school and studying, but hamna kazi?
Yeah. Very good question. I mean, my view of education is that education is not everything. Education is something. What education has done to me is it's opened my mind. Yeah. I love the lecturers, the teachers who growing up have said that we're not here to give you everything. We're just here to, help you scratch your brain and think. We're here to open up your mind. So education is not everything, clearly. Some of us to Mesoma, and by the time we got the jobs that we got, it was very hard. So I think what I'd like us to do is to challenge young people out there not to think of education as something that once you get that degree, you're going to walk and be offered a job and to get six figures. No. Help them think, help them know that education is just there to challenge their minds, give them credentials which are necessary in the job market, but then let's teach our young people to be able to think, to be able to start their own things. I mean, me starting my music and tapping the skills and abilities I have from the arts was in preparation so that after this I can start doing my own things, which I started doing music in my first year and was able to earn through that till today. So let's teach our young people to be able to start things, entrepreneurship, start small initiatives in college. By the time you're done your fourth year, you're already walking into a company. You're already walking into a non-profit organization that you started. You're already a brand. You're already at the table. You're shining. So let's not take education as the answer to everything, but as something that you can have a credential and you can also use it to open up your mind.
Okay. Solomon, please mute your microphone. The second question is from Pascal from Nigeria. How do you manage your cause with the family issues we have in Africa? Sorry. I don't know. Maybe Pascal would like to let us know what family issues we have in Africa.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Just a quick one to say thank you, our guest speaker. Wonderful topic, wonderful delivery. A lot of us come from a background where, for example, anyway, you're a little bit lucky. A lot of us come from a background where you happen to be the only person and you've got siblings that are also hanging on. So in this situation, how do we've got multiple of layers following us behind. You get what I'm saying? Yes, that is what I'm trying to ask. Thank you.
So it's basically, there are a lot of people who are depending on you. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a very good question. Let me tell you something. Through my talk, I might sound very privileged, but let me put you in the context. My father, um, my father was born in a family, you know, those traditional families where his mom has, I mean, 10 wives in a family, and you know, you're the son of wife number 8 or number 4. So that's the family that my dad grew up in. And his, I have one uncle who got kids. The others, my dad's siblings, who were like 8, all died at young ages, so they weren't able to have kids. But my dad's brother left him a letter, literally on his deathbed, and said, "Take care of my family." And that family has 10 people. So I've grown up with, with 4 siblings, so a family of 5 plus 10. So my dad has raised 15 kids. So as our fees was being paid, theirs was being paid. He was struggling all through. So right now, I have the burden, and we have the burden of educating all these, nieces, nephews, and it's a mess. I don't want to go into it, but I totally understand what you're saying. You're a beacon of hope in your community right now. The most successful individual in our family is my brother, the one who went to Harvard, and I know probably what he's feeling is what you're feeling right now. They say to whom much is given, much is expected. So you're the beacon of hope in that society, and it's an economics game. What you have to do right now, and I'm sure you're probably doing that, is to inspire, to be able to empower other beacons, so that in 3, 5, 10 years, you have other beacons of hope who are supporting you to support others. My brother Mumo educated my cousin. He's called Glenn at the University of Nairobi, did a business degree. And right now, Glenn is a chairman. He's younger than I am, chairman of our local community primary school in Kitui, where my dad grew up. Now you see, it's becoming a chain. He's creating other beacons. My brother Mumo, when my dad was struggling, my MBA, my dad couldn't pay it, and I didn't have a job. My brother Mumo is the one who was helping, spending sleepless nights in New York, working hard up to 1 a.m. averaged on every night, so that we can be able to study. But what he was doing is he was creating other beacons of hope. Right now, what I'm doing it out of, I'm like, if this happened to me, I have to do it to other people. I don't have a small brother, but I'm creating small brothers in Kenya. So unfortunately, it's a big task for you, but then I'm sure God has given you the grace to be able to do it. So keep creating other beacons, and we're in this together.
Thank you, Dave, for that. Last question here posted by Kevin. I liked the tool of using the words, but I'm not clear on the difference between choose and decide. I feel like it's the same thing based on your explanation. So please clarify.
Thank you very much. They might sound the same, but then we're thinking from top down. We're thinking from a very general perspective down here. Decide is, these words can even be used interchangeably. So I don't want to make it like this is some theory somewhere. These are just notes that I use to prepare. Making a decision to be able to effect change in society. That's one thing, deciding. Because I can decide to use the 10,000 shillings that I have. I can choose I can decide not to use it to help community. Use it for myself or to save for my family and the education of my kids who will come. But then just making that decision, making that decision in a general, I want to effect change in society, and I want to do it through education or to sports in Kenya. That's deciding. Now, the moment you're making a choice is when you're actually starting the work. Yeah. Under choose, I said I chose education. I registered the Muthengi Foundation. Now we're talking about specifics here. We've narrowed it down. You made the decision right now. Choose. You can use them interchangeably, but there's that point of action that you're saying, I'm going to do this. You know what? I'm going to do this, and Kenya is going to see it. So I'm going to register, or even if I haven't registered, I'm going to start this work. So that's the second one I just meant. That's the point where now you're you're actually saying, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it now with the little I have. And after that, I went on to start. Yeah, yes. So, I mean, they can be used interchangeably. Sorry if it confused you a bit, but the first one was just coming from a wide perspective of what do I want to do in the world and to be known for. And then now actually starting the world. I'm seeing a very interesting question from Lydia.
Yes.
Lydia is saying, how do you raise funds for your foundation and what challenges do you face? Very important question, Lydia. There's a time when I started the foundation, people in the family laughed at me. I'm the brokest amongst the siblings. And, you know, they didn't laugh in my face, but I had my mom say something that led me to a conclusion that some people were laughing at. And they were saying basically, how is this one starting a foundation? They're starting a foundation with what money? Where are they going to get their funds? And I told my mom that I might not have the money, but you know what? I have the brains. So I use my brains. We raise money through our networks. There are times where I've written proposals and waited for an organization to support, and you know, taken 1.5 years to even get responses or for it to be actualized. But yet again, the same amount of funds through my network, through networking, through going to dinners, through, you know, just keeping relationships, I've raised the same amount of money from 2 individuals in 2 months. It led me to come up with a model that, you know, funds can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to be through proposal writing, resource mobilization. Like, you can just do it through your networks. So that's the model I chose. The other day, our biggest initiative was in Kitui, November 29th, 2019. We provided uniforms for full school. Once we go to schools, we usually do 100 uniforms. That's like 1,000 shillings. You can afford doing so let's say 150. But then this one, this one we got 1 million shillings from Barclays Life Assurance Kenya. This initiative, this funding, we got it through my friend who works there, who works there, and we met at a party sometime back and continued communicating, and we were able to secure this. But you know, it took, I think, a year or a year and 2 months for it to be able to be actualized. And the funds that through my network, through, you know, just maintaining relationships, I've gotten way easier. So to me, the issue of funds, the model that I use is, you know, is just tapping my network. You know, I know it sounds very general and very cliche, but that's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing, and it's been able to be successful so far.
Thank you for that.
Oh yeah, I forgot something. I use social media a lot more than you think. You know what? The moment we sat here, I took a video and I posted it on my socials, and I'm like, we're going live, I'm giving this talk, blah, blah. There's another individual in society right now who is doing what I'm doing right now, speaking to a Rotary Club somewhere, but then no one knows about it. So to me, I use social media a lot. And I'm sure after this talk, it'll, you know, just hit someone, oh, you can actually do this. Why don't you speak to my group next week or next month? So I use marketing a lot. I can ask you a question. Who is the most successful governor in Kenya? Anyone? Who's the most popular governor?
Mutua.
Mutua. Is Mutua the working the hardest? Is he the one who's creating the most development necessarily?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. But then what does he do better than a lot of governors?
He communicates better.
That's the answer. You communicate better. So use what I was saying by start where you are, use what you have. I have bundles. I have bundles, and I have these marketing skills that after this, everyone is going to know that I gave this talk. So to me, what Mutua does correctly is using what he has, which is his communication and PR skills to market. So there's the real value, and then there's a perceived value in marketing. So to me, I like creating a balance of the work I'm doing and how much I'm talking about it. Don't talk too much and you're not doing the work, but then, don't do too much work and you're not talking about it. So I leverage a lot on my communication skills, my marketing skills, and I'm able to talk a lot. There's a deal that I almost got. We almost got. I was approached by Family Bank in 2018 to use one of our programs, the Fichauchi Uniform Campaign, as their CSR. And I was contacted by the head of communications, I forget the title, but you know where they communicated at? On Facebook DM. And we were called for a meeting, went and did it. No, we didn't even do a presentation. They said they already like what we're doing, so we just presented our document. And fast forward, cut a long story short, it went all the way up to the executive committee who approved it. But since they didn't want to oppose it on the staff, they gave the staff two things to vote for. One was their ongoing tanks initiative, and then our new Fichauchi campaign. And we lost by a few votes, but otherwise, I was like, if I didn't talk about it too much on social media, I don't think I would get that inbox and later get that meeting. Yeah, and it was a 10 million shilling event, to do uniforms, to do CSRs for their 90 branches countrywide. So yeah, like if social media can do this, it can do a lot.
Anyone else who has a question?
I think I had asked about the challenges. I don't know whether you addressed that part as well. Yeah, kindly.
Okay. Challenges in raising funds. Challenges in raising funds, right?
Yes, generally like running a foundation. So mainly like the fundraising aspect of it.
Yeah, there are very many challenges. I can start with a very simple and funny one. Sometimes there are political challenges. You're going somewhere and the MCA thinks you're trying to take his job. So imagine like in Kangemi when we were there, the MP was very mad at us that we went and started doing work without his knowledge. So we had to write a letter. Yeah, but the challenges mainly are the usual challenges. Number one, there's something called burnout. When you're working with human beings, individuals, and we're raising funds amongst our network, and then after some time, someone just feels they're not getting the necessary value that they wanted. As a human being, even if you're giving to a charity or a non-profit, you want this value to be attached to it. So sometimes there's burnouts just in between amongst our group. So keeping our people who control the main functions motivated, so that you can have the same heart that you had in 2015 in 2020. So there's a huge motivation angle challenge that we face, and that's where leadership comes in. How are you able to motivate your members as you continue your team? So that's a huge challenge. Number two, resources do burn out. If you're used to tapping from this industry, from this company A, B, and C, and then they're not doing well business-wise. Actually, some of our main supporters in 2019 had a tough year. One or two individuals who own organizations, business people in community, they had a very tough year. 2019 was a tough year for a lot of people in business, and as a result, we're not able to beat our targets. We raised almost nothing in 2019, and because tulikuwa tunategemea, we were depending on very few individuals, and then it was a tough year business-wise for them. So again, it made me start thinking of how can we diversify and expand our network so that we're not dependent on one or two people who, if business is tough for them, things might go wrong.
Solomon, could you mute your microphone, please? Thank you. Is there any other question?
Oh, there's something else I remembered as we think of another question. There's something else probably I can add to the challenge and to the methods of raising funds. I come from the entertainment industry, and it got to a point everyone was saying, why don't you use concerts and stuff to raise funds? But I was telling them that these things are not practical. I do a concert and the costs are 100,000 and we're trying to raise 100,000. Like, it doesn't make sense. There's so many costs to it. So I come up with a model of not using, events and stuff. And if you're going to do events, probably do very high-end dinners that, you're selling a table at 50 to 100,000 and, that kind of stuff, so that you can be able to bring your cost, your revenue, money coming in, and the costs low. Yes, and so I don't advocate for most of these events. I mean, the events are good, but then just look at your costs versus what is coming in, so that you can be able to make money. Lastly, on that issue, I met a lady who runs who is a founder of the Canada Madaraka Education Trust, CME Trust, and she asked me, I was in Madaraka giving a talk to some of the kids who they're educating. And she asked me, how big is your organization? And I was so embarrassed to say that it's very small. So I asked her, I beat about the bush, and then I asked her the same question. She said, we're only 3. And I said, what do you mean? She said, we have myself running it as executive director in Canada. Then we have Tito, the guy who invited you to Madaraka, and then we have someone else, I think her husband or something. And I said, that's such a lean structure. She said, yeah, man, I just want to raise funds. We just want to raise funds. So we're not trying to have an organization that is in the Forbes list for being a big organization. We're just trying to raise funds. And one way of raising funds is keeping your costs very low. Let me tell you, that day I went and I was running an office in Valley Arcade, and it was just eating money for the foundation. I went and closed it because I don't even remember doing any meetings there. It's meeting people, we'd meet at parties, we'd meet at Java and stuff like that. So I closed that office and saved a lot. Money that I can even give 5,000 per month towards our foundation. So.
Jerry, question?
Okay, thank you, Holiday, for that insightful, inspiring presentation. My question is, how do you handle conflict of interest? Has there been any instance of conflict of interest in terms of getting suppliers for the various products and services you provide to the community?
I don't think we've had that challenge so much, because let's say, for example, our uniforms initiative, what we do is we get the funds and then we use tailors fundis from the community we're going to. So what we do is we just balance for consistency and for some good quality assurance. We have a team of tailors run by our head tailor Jennifer, and so everywhere we're going, whether it's Kitui, Kakamega, Siaya, we go with our tailor, but then we use the tailors of the community, so that again the community is appeased, wako sawa, and we're able to empower them with the because the uniforms we provide are pretty much on at a subsidized rate, so they get very little per uniform, but at least the local tailors feel that we've been able to use them. That's the only main challenge, but we addressed it by using the tailors in the respective communities we go to. Otherwise, I don't think we've had such an issue. The issue we've had mainly is, with politicians and the political community thinking that when we take 300 uniforms to Kitui, and we're from the area, one of us from the area, they think that we're trying to have political ambitions. And one way to address that is we keep it underwater. Like Barclays told us that they didn't want any politician at the event, so we didn't even advertise that one. We're not allowed to. We didn't do a poster for it. We just ambushed the community, and they had our local MP was making calls and asking, what is this that is happening today? But it was too late for her to attend the event. So the challenges we've had are pretty much, this with the political class, but not with service providers, not in that area. Yeah. Because most people are just happy that we're bringing change to the community, majority of the community, and that sort of protects us because everyone is so happy. Yeah. I'm seeing Kevin is asking about the funding. Have you tried getting funds from donor organizations, and what has been your experience? Yes, we've tried. As much as we raise funds from individuals and within our network, we've approached several donor organizations, and I mean, we've approached the large ones, USAID and stuff like that. Some to no avail. Some like you just wait. One or two, like after a while, you get like a few $1,000, but it's very little compared to the effort you're putting in and the time you're waiting. So to me, honestly, I'll be very, very honest. Most of the funds we've raised are through individuals in our network. I remember I was on Twitter. In my DM, I got a message, someone saying you're doing a very good job. I went to Daystar with you. I'm like, yes, I remember this name. Okay, there's this organization, friends of mine who are in Switzerland, and they want to donate desks in Kenya and they want to donate. First, they said they want to donate desks. So I said, okay, let me send you my profile. In the profile, I added all the initiatives we have. And once they saw that we also do computers, they replied and said, we have these computers we're trying to do away with. Yeah, so that was a very big donation. The major donations have been, through just individuals in our networks. So again, the take home from this point is, don't despise the power of your network, the power of your relationships. And that's why I usually take an hour every day just to go through my inboxes, looking for, these pointer words like, hi, I'd like to help your organization. I'm interested in the work you're doing. Then I respond. And from that, we usually get very good leads. How do you decide which, Christine, I think, how do you decide which community institutions to support? There's so much need in society that you don't even need to think so much. We usually have lists. We have a list of like schools that are so needy that come through our friends like you guys, or through our supporters, volunteers, anyone. So we just assess need. And of course, there are people who give with an intention of helping a specific community. For example, someone will give someone will give and say that they want to help their community in Likuyani constituency in Western Kenya. So what do? We have schools in Likuyani. They'll suggest, or we'll just pick one of ours, but we know that we're effecting change in Likuyani because that this money came in, specifically to help a certain community. And then what I usually tell my members is that if you ukitia bidii sana, if you put in a lot of work in a proposal or something, once that money comes in, you're going to help. You have a say towards where this money is going to go. Like the Barclays one was my efforts. So what did I do? I called my cousin, who's the chairman of BLG board chairman at that school, and I said, no, let's take this home, and we took it home.
There was a question by S. Moses.
Which question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. Two questions actually. Do you do this full time? That's the first one. And then what are some of your key success indicators? Is it the amount of money contributed in a year, or the coverage, or something else?
I don't do it full time. Again, I do it full time. One thing I tell a lot of people starting organizations, especially nonprofit, is don't run your nonprofit. Rather, run your nonprofit as if it's a business. With the same standards, with the same effort. We see that a lot of people do that. The run nonprofits or these charities as a, by the way, something that you'll do if you get time on the weekend or in the evening, if you get time. Yes, but then if we can run these things with the same seriousness that we run our businesses, they'll be able to be very successful, and we'll be on the table. We'll be at the table. So I don't do it full time, but I give it the necessary attention. I give it attention as if it was my full time. Sorry, remind me your second question. Oh, key success factors. One, okay, we do have targets for everything. The uniforms, we're trying to get to 10,000. Right now we're at 5,000. But then our initiatives are more than just what they are. For example, when we go for our uniforms initiative, the model that we use in the day is we have uniforms being made in the compound somewhere by our tailors. We're engaging the kids and kids, teachers, and parents in gaming communities, whether it's a football tournament and Crazy Olympic Games. And then during lunchtime, we break the girls into one group, the boys into another group, and then we have mentorship sessions. That's where our mentorship comes in. And then in the afternoon, we present uniforms. Now, what happens is we've gone to take uniforms, but a lot of interactions happen, whether it's health issues. Like the other day, we had two organizations providing sanitary towels, and they send their teams to come and talk to the girls about hygiene and about, menstruation and all this. So this element, we're using the uniforms campaign as a shell, but then all these other things are happening. All these other beneficial activities are happening on the sidelines. We've gotten people fees have been paid by individuals in our groups and friends of our members who attend the. We have speeches, and then people are touched, and we have more than uniforms being provided. As I said, we have fees being paid and stuff like that. So success factors are being able to see the impact that we're creating far and above what has taken us to this school. As we said, our tagline is supporting education in Kenya, and however we're going to support it, as long as we're supporting it. I remember, like I said, that we're not going to handle school fees, which is the main elephant in the room. But you know what happened? Out of posting all this on social media, 2 years ago, I get an inbox from another lady we were with in campus and says, I want to fund, our group wants to fund a kid through high school. I know you have connections, people, needy cases. So what did I do? We don't want to support education, but what did we find ourselves doing? Right now, that one of those kids is Form 3 at Kapsabet Boys High School, National School. A kid who got 411 out of 500 and could not pay. What happened again? The following year, we get another call, the inbox from another lady we went to school with. Again, as you can see, our network, because every time we go for an initiative, we're putting it on social media, people are seeing what we're doing. So they funded, they're funding another kid, a girl now. And this lady, again, this also answers a question of how do you identify change? How do you identify the location or where you're going to effect this change? This girl, this lady said, you know what? My grandmother just died. My grandmother she's a Kikuyu lady. She said, my grandmother was Kamba. So I feel like helping a Kamba and a girl specifically through high school. So what do? I put out on social media word, and I get kids from Kitui, Machakos, Makueni. I go through these cases, and one was like very compelling. So we took change there. So just to be able to see us supporting education in Kenya in any manner, that's one success factor. And also now targets that we lay out so that we can continue trying to beat them each and every year. I don't know whether I've answered it well.
Okay. I think that sums it up pretty much. Thanks.
Thank you too.
Move to the next session, the Sergeant at Arms section. So I'll hand this over to Joel. Sorry, I jumped the gun. There's a vote of thanks. So for the vote of thanks, I shall nominate Moses Starling. It's good of him to speak today, and having said the last, having had the opportunity to ask the last question, he'll give the vote of thanks. On to you, Moses.
Thank you for catching me off guard. But
training you for leadership.
I'll do my best. I think for our speaker, it should be quite easy because he's been very eloquent today. And thank you very much, Mr. David, Holy Dave. On behalf of Madaraka and through this channel, I would like to say thank you very much for showing up. And are you a member of any Rotary Club?
I tried to join, I was rejected.
Well, I think we would very much love you to join us. We would not reject you. And since you're in charity, I think that also is along our goals. We would work very well together. So
Thanks.
thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Thank you, Stalin. So we'll move on to the essay. Joel, over to you.
Is Joel online?
I saw landlord there. Hello, Joel?
Maybe dinner has just been served. Or he was outside and arrested by the cops.
That's not true. Hello, Joel?
He's going to collect rent.
Yeah, I can hear him. Okay. Just give me a minute. Apologies, everyone.
He deserves to be fined. Clear grounds.
Hello, Joel?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Joel is predisposed.
Okay.
Apatie mtoto chakula. Husbands. Anyway, we'll appoint. Who will I appoint? I'll appoint Josiah. Hata hatujakusikia. I'll appoint Josiah. Josiah, you've been so silent. How are you?
I don't know what to do with the digital. What do you do with digital?
I'll appoint Josiah to be the standing SA for this meeting.
No. By the way, you are lucky you found me. Even me, I was dealing with children.
We are all dealing with children.
What do you do with the digital essay?
What do? We find them and then they send to the pay bill.
But first,
and then Malaki shares the screen right there.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm not ready to do it. I don't know how to find and
what. We need to be lubricated first.
I'm not ready to do it. I don't know who to find and on what. Can you hear me?
Josiah, it's easy.